Steph Curry has been on an absolute tear lately. Over his last 9 games, he is averaging 38 points per game on 54, 47, 92 splits, and the Warriors are currently 7-2 in those games. And looking at Curry's numbers overall this year, they are practically identical to the numbers he was putting up in his 2016 unanimous MVP season, which also happens to be, in my opinion, the greatest offensive season of all time from one individual. This year, he's averaging 31 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists on 66% true shooting. In his 2016 season, Steph averaged 30 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists on 67% true shooting. That's 1 more assist and 1% better true shooting in his MVP season, so that's not much of a difference. And being that Steph in 2016 was the first and to this point only unanimous MVP ever, you'd think him repeating the same numbers later on would result in at least some MVP hype, but really that's not been the case at all. Steph Curry is not in MVP conversations for real. He's getting mentioned here or there, but for the most part, nobody thinks he's a legitimate candidate. And while it might seem like I'm suggesting the opposite, that is exactly how it should be. Steph Curry is the most valuable player in the NBA right now, but he's not the MVP. Let me explain what I mean by that. Before I continue on with this video, about half of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you fall into that 50%, then subscribe. Also drop a like on this video, it only takes 1 second and it makes a massive difference. Also, 2 things real quick. First of all, my second channel is very close to 40k subscribers. I do post-game reactions and hot takes videos over there, so if that is something that interests you, then go subscribe over there. Also, new episode of the podcast has been out for a bit. I just wasn't able to promote it because I was on a trip, so go check that one out as well. It's a very good episode. The title is like King Kong, but it's basketball, or Kong versus Godzilla, but it's basketball, not a fight. Stupid shit. That's what that podcast is. It's a whole lot of stupid shit, but it's perfect. Let's get on with the topic, though. Steph Curry is the NBA's most valuable player by a country mile, but he's not the MVP. Here was what I mean by that. First of all, let's talk about the statement that he is the most valuable player in the league right now. Looking at his on-off numbers, when Steph is on the floor, the Warriors are the 13th best offense in the league. With him off, they are the worst offense in the last 5 seasons and just one of the worst ever, period, when adjusting for pace. And even outside of those numbers, if you watch Warriors games and you pay attention when Steph is on the bench, it's actually pathetic how bad the Warriors are offensively when Steph is not on the floor. This is a team that lives and dies by Steph, and it's a team that lives and dies by one player more so than any other team in the league right now. The Warriors are Stephen Curry. That's pretty much it. He's the most valuable player in the league for that reason, but like I keep saying, he's not the MVP. And this is because of the precedent of the MVP award, and I really wanted to talk about this particularly with Steph because this is a good argument against the argument of, well, he means more to his team, therefore he is the MVP. Because Steph is very much on the extreme end of the spectrum with that argument. This general point has been used quite consistently throughout the years. The most recent one that I could think of is the 2018 MVP, where people argued that LeBron was more important to the Cavs than James Harden was to the Rockets, therefore LeBron should win MVP. But the thing about that is, who is the most valuable player is not actually who is the MVP very frequently. Steph Curry is an extreme example for this because he has the numbers. He absolutely means more to his team than any other team in the league for one individual player, and he also is on a team that's not in the playoffs right now. So you have the extreme example of, obviously Steph is this valuable, obviously his numbers are insane, but the Warriors suck. And that's something that is very much on the extreme of that example. Now, it's so extreme that no one's really making this argument, and I think in a case like 2018 with LeBron versus Harden, because it's closer, it's a little more nuanced, and I think it's a little bit more fair of an argument, But regardless, the point stands that being the most valuable player does not result in the MVP, because when you look at the precedent of the MVP award, that's simply never what it's really meant. Pretty much the only time that I can think of, at least in recent history, where that argument has actually had any results in who was actually the MVP was 2017 with Russell Westbrook, and James Harden should have won that MVP anyways, so there you go. The MVP's precedent has been you almost always have to be a top 3 record in the league, let alone top 3 in your conference. You need to put up very good numbers, and your team can't be like overly stacked. Like, for example, the Warriors, as soon as Steph and KD got together, both of those guys were canceled out for winning MVP. That's kind of just how it is. Steph Curry right now obviously does not have that situation, but in times of the past, players who have the stacked team don't really get it. Also, it helps to have the narrative on your side of things, but the people who make the argument of, oh, you're the most important team or most important player to your team will be against the narrative argument. But the thing is, the you're the most important to their team argument is also basically a narrative too. So I think that's a little hypocritical. Again, I think that argument can be more nuanced when it's a less extreme example than Steph Curry right now. But point is, and I've said it like 10 times now, Steph is on a more extreme spectrum here because his stuff is far in both directions. But regardless, the argument of this guy is more important to his team, therefore he is the MVP, is clearly not working with Steph here because of the extremeness of it, but that's really how it works in general. You cannot simply use the argument of this player is more valuable. This player is more valuable to his team, therefore he is the MVP, because really nobody is arguing that Steph is the MVP right now because they know that his team is just simply too bad for him to be in that MVP race. Now, I don't want this to be like a negative video about Steph at all. I don't think anyone's going to get that impression. I have his jersey hanging up, for God's sakes. But regardless, I did want to point out Steph's incredible season, and I also thought it'd be interesting to look at this season through the lens of that argument, because I think it's a rather bad argument, and it's especially been, at least precedent-wise, an argument that does not matter at all. And I thought Steph was a great example of this that has gone kind of unmentioned in terms of this actual debate. So shout out to Steph for having an amazing season. The 2021 MVP race in general is kind of a clusterfuck. I mean, the Nuggets are, I don't even know what seed. They're not a top 3 seed last I checked, that they could be. Jokic is probably going to win MVP because the race is like, who do you give it to outside of Jokic at this point? Because even the top teams don't have some guy who is sticking out that crazy number-wise, and the MVP race this year is just weird. That's all I gotta say. Injuries are also a huge factor, and I don't know, this is a weird-ass season. So shout out to Steph, shout out to Jokic, who's probably gonna win that award, and shout out to the podcast again. Go watch that if you have not already, and go watch, go subscribe to the second channel. But yeah, this video was weird. I don't really know what it was, but here you go. It's over. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video. And that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.